The one point I'd like to make on intent data, if you're not using it for your own customer sentiment, your competitors are using it, and they're using it to detect your customer as a new logo.
The moat that you can build around your business now is the data and the insights within that you can then use within all of those channels to build the competitive advantage. Just a quick one before we get into the episode, because I've got an offer that I'm sure all of you will be interested in. AEO is something that every B2B marketing team is trying to figure out right now, and most just don't know where to start. But at Blend, we're offering a full AEO analysis of your brand's AI visibility, and we'll walk you through exactly what we found and what to do about it. From full prompt analysis against your competitors to a citation analysis, where we'll look at different content types and how you're being cited for those and mentioned in those, and what you can actually do to be mentioned and cited much more for your brand, and what content you should create going forwards, and how you comprise that strategy really. We will drop a note in the description of this episode in the show notes, and you can go over there, request your free AEO audit, and we will deliver that to you. Hi everyone, welcome back to Demand Decoded. Dan here with you today, joined by Josh. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about why customer success is the most important marketing channel that you are probably ignoring. The issue is that marketing teams are so often gold with and are relentlessly chasing net new logo acquisition, while they're actually sitting on the most underused growth channel that they already have, which is their own customer base. And it's a it's a thing that we've spoken about multiple times on this podcast, but we haven't really dedicated a whole episode to this huge opportunity that lies with us in go to market. And Josh, I know this is something that you're super passionate about, right? Um and I've
It's a
loved
fair
talking to
statement.
you about this
Yeah.
because yeah, it's a big opportunity for businesses right now. Before we get into the podcast today, here's a quick word from our sponsors, HubSpot. Most businesses think they know their customers. They have the data, the records, the history, but it's scattered across 3 teams and 4 systems, which means nobody can actually use it. HubSpot connects it all. Every interaction, every support ticket, every conversation into one platform every team can work from. So when sales talk to a customer, marketing already know the full story. And when you know more, you grow more. Check out HubSpot.com, the agentic customer platform for growing businesses.
Yeah, it's true. I look at the average, B2B software company, the amount that they pour into new logo acquisition, and then compared to the amount they invest in uh, optimizing their customer relationships, but for the purpose of growth, right? For the purpose of selling more to those customers. But um, it's shocking, the disparity. Shocking, especially when you've got a captured audience, and you should be able to, as long as you're producing additional products, your additional services, you have more things you can offer that customer. What more ways to create value? That is a um, that should be in your revenue stack or your growth stack. That should be one of the most fundamental pieces of the foundation that keeps you predictable, keeps you on a consistent growth path, is by being able to continually sell more to to the relationships you've already started. But that's easier said than done.
Yeah, yeah. The way that I think about customer success and the relationship with marketing now is 2 different angles because, of course, you've got the growth opportunity that you have from marketing working with customer success on how to identify expansion opportunities and how to actually create campaigns around those to go and activate and engage those customers um, for white space opportunities. But we've also got the other angle, which is how customer success can feed intelligence and insights back into marketing. And that's often an even bigger gap that exists in businesses.
I want to be careful. So we've got terms we use for org structures, customer success, marketing, but the business as a whole really needs to be, constructed or maybe not organized around, but at least the strategy of that business needs to be based on how do they overall create value for their customers and be able to deploy or implement or set up a new customer, create quick value, measure that value, um, prove that value, and then be able to expand that value over time. That's not there's no rocket science there, but the number of companies that get stuck in their org structure and as a result don't they lose sight of the big picture. I'll give you an example. Marketing should be should be the people who are the most talented, the best users of words in an organization, the best influencers in an organization, in terms of because that's what they do all day. That's if your marketing team can't influence people, they're not going to be very good at creating pipeline, right? So we take that skill set and then we tell them in most cases, oh no, they're an existing customer. You don't talk to them.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what? Like, and then we tell and then we have all these great ideas about how customer success or account management should be upselling our customers, but we don't arm them with the right messaging and train them on how to deliver it. And oftentimes they're the wrong people to even be delivering that messaging to various levels within the organization. And so like we don't think from a customer's lens in to understand what they need to be able to feel good about their relationship with us, and then we don't put our best athletes on the field in the right positions to be able to uh, make that possible.
Yeah, yeah, that's so, so true. And um, when we were chatting before this, I think your point around customer sentiment was central to everything we're probably going to cover here because knowing the sentiment of that individual customer that you want to potentially upsell to, expand their account, engage in some form of way is absolutely essential to how marketing can work with customer success. Because if you if you're going blind with these customers and you have no idea about like the state of their account, then that's a real risk for churn as well potentially.
Yeah. So let's dig in there. So what is sentiment? Sentiment is a individual feeling of whether this uh, product, service, partner is helping me accomplish what I want it to accomplish and do so in a way in the manner in which I find useful and easy and effective in my day to day. But because it's inherently individual, it applies to the person, the individual using the software, the individual managing the people who use the software, the procurement person who was involved in buying the software, the executive who was the economic buyer and is supposed to see income statement results or P&L results because of the software. And I'm just picking on software, but this could be really anything, the service, whatever. Um, Sentiment is necessarily individual, and we have to stop thinking of it as this customer thinks of us this way. We issue one NPS survey and it to whoever, maybe to the executive, maybe to the user, maybe we surface it in the software platform. I know a lot of companies like to do that. That a software served NPS score, unless your software is designed like your users are the executives of the company, apply, gives you absolutely no visibility into whether they're going to churn. None. It could be a 10. Your customers all love you, but the at the budgeting level, if your users are more, lower level people, and you're making their jobs easier and you're helping them be effective and whatnot, you're getting the job done. And lower level can be anything under whoever's making the budget decisions, right? Um, but the budget decision person is going to be making not just a decision on how well that, you know, whether they need your software for or your service for another term. They're going to be making it in the context of all the other spending decisions they need to make. Is it more valuable than these three things, right? And so if we don't if we don't know what that person's world looks like, and we aren't gathering information from that person, we aren't gathering information from the end users, we aren't gathering from all the different, just like when you were first buying it, you had a committee, right? In most cases, when we're selling enterprise services, enterprise software, we know we have an economic buyer, we have a
Yeah.
IT buyer, we have users, influencers, and so on, and we spend time game planning,
Mm.
right? In any kind of account planning session or sales planning session, we're game planning those, what those, each of those people think. We're trying to figure out, okay, where do we have weakness? Where do we have people who are in our camp? Who's going to help us win? Who's our coach? All these kinds of things, right? They become a customer, and all of it goes out the window.
Yeah.
And and so what we what we want to do is we want to design customer sentiment programs that are measuring all of the key stakeholders continuously, and we're detecting challenges or risks with those people continuously, so that, as and we're bringing it all into one place. So, what's first of all, does that make sense? Does that hold water?
I think so. I'll hold off on my next question, but for now, it
Okay. So,
makes sense.
so you got to stop me because I'll just keep going on. Um, but what I get excited about is historically, um, a lot of that sentiment would be stuck in unstructured data. It was a collection of emails that weren't harnessed into one place. It was phone calls, between the account manager and the CFO, or various things, right? But they weren't. And then you had tickets coming in. You had customer success team members dealing with those tickets. Sometimes you'd be able to harness that and understand what's going on with the customer, but if you couldn't aggregate all of it along with what's happening in their business. So are they, did what was their last earnings, if it's a public company, what was their last earnings release? What did their CEO say? Are they going in towards cost cutting mode? Like all of that firmographic information is also really critical to being able to understand customer sentiment, because it's not just about you, it's about how you play in their business. That's ultimately, right, our what we have to consider in terms of understanding that sentiment. Then so if but now, sorry, I get twisted. uh, but now we do have the platforms where we can capture all that, and we can bring it together, and we can have agents that are analyzing that nonstop and are saying, okay, these guys are trending up, these guys are trending down, here are all the different reasons. We can be programmatic about how we view different elements. We can do A/B testing on, this category of customers, this cohort versus another cohort, and see what really wh- see how well our models train towards the actual renewal rates. um, that starts to show Where do we have opportunities to raise pricing? Because we're seeing that our products or our services are actually creating greater value than the customer expected, and it's becoming truly part of their operation, and they have to have it. It would be hard to replace. Versus where do we see, despite the fact that we might have 2 or 3 users who love the platform and they're in it all the time and they're clicking 10 on NPS, and they're maybe they're submitting tickets because they're so engaged with, but they're 3 levels down, and their CFO just got replaced, and it's within let's say the software is within the finance department, and now there's a new CFO who's coming in with a different set of priorities and past experiences and platforms and so on, right? How do we reflect that risk and detect that and say, okay, we've got a strategic thing we've got to go do. We have to prioritize right now. We have to get in front of that person.
Yeah.
Like before the sun goes down today, we've got to go get in front of that person and make that somebody's critical job, the right type of person's critical job right now. All of that is now possible in a centralized system like HubSpot by bringing in data from all over and then building agents to allow us to be able to evaluate it in real time and continuously. And to me, that's where now we have a true customer sentiment platform that allows us to be able to make decisions about how we're going to go try to increase revenue within our customer base
Yeah.
through additional products, services, raising prices, so on.
Yeah. Just as you were running through that, this framing came into my mind, which is around intent data and how intent data is so commonly used to, get new customers through the door and to analyze what the market is doing and if our ICP is actually like engaging in this category we're working in, and how we analyze those signals to then approach them at the right time with the right message. And
Right.
this is what we're trying to build at the customer success layer. So the way that I think about this is that we've got two different layers again, as we would in our top of funnel, which is first party intent and third party intent, but for customers. So, first party intent for your customers is all of the tickets, all of the calls, all of the emails to everybody inside of that business, every conversation, every interaction with the software, like every engagement with your business after they become a customer. That is your first party data that gives you signals on how engaged they are, how much they're using your product, where the spaces are, and if they are happy in your usage with your platform or your services. Then you've got the third party intent data, which is totally ignored when it comes to customer
Mhm.
success. Like, we rave about the signals that
True.
we get from Sixth Sense and Apollo and Zoom Info about how people are coming into the market and if they're researching this topic, if they've been on our website. But the third party intent data at the customer level is typically where things are really hidden, and that your point of contact on a day-to-day basis might not be able to share some things with you that are also publicly available because maybe they don't feel like they have to, maybe it's not in their remit to. But so I've been playing around a lot with HubSpot agents, which are just phenomenal. So one way to go about thinking about third party intent data for customers is to set up an agent that is going to enroll all of your customers or a segment of your customers and look at the kind of triggers that would affect your business, your relationship with them. It could be earnings reports, it could be changes to hierarchy in the business, it could be layoffs, it could be anything that is relevant to your business. That is going to give you, these third party signals that then feed into the sentiment score. So the sentiment score isn't just an NPS survey to one single user in
Right.
a 1,000 employee business. It's looking at the entire sentiment of that company. And maybe, you do have individual sentiment score, then like account sentiment. You could split it in a lot of different ways. But I suppose the thinking here is that,
No, that's exactly what you have. Yeah.
yeah,
It,
all
and
of this data combines.
yeah, go ahead. Finish your thought. Sorry, I'm tripping on you.
Well, next I want to talk about then how you use that data in go to market. Like, how does that affect then the decisions that you make to send this campaign, to like run this email, to enroll everybody into this sequence, or drive them into LinkedIn for ads and stuff. And it's all based off of these two segments of data that you can bring together.
So I agree with you, and we'll go on to that. The one point I'd like to make on intent data, if you're not using it for your own customer sentiment, your competitors are using it, and they're using it to detect your customer as a new logo. So if there are people in your customer who are going out and searching alternatives to you or searching anything about you, frankly, and using your brand name or the the type of thing that you are, that's registering as third party intent data. You can bet you can bet your competitors are identifying that signal and are now targeting your customer as an opportunity because somebody's actively looking into something. If you don't know that and you aren't factoring that into your own sentiment scores and registering that as we might have a concern here, even though everything looks green on our side, they seem like they're happy, they've been with us for 10 years, like, if that's happening and you don't know, like, it, it's a risk. And um and so and that's how people get blindsided, right? Is, wait a minute, what do you mean you're not renewing? Like, you've been happy all this time. Well, as it turns out, a few months ago, somebody went and looked and they found this other thing and it's a third of the price and it does most of what we need it to, and or whatever. Or maybe it does more stuff and maybe it's more expensive, but you guys never told us you could do that too. I've heard, unfortunately, too many times. Oh, I didn't know you also do that after
Hmm.
the decision was made, right?
Yeah.
And so being able to use third party data to find not just what, or to you know to sort of protect against or protect renewals, but also to identify where the customer might be looking for things that are in your white space, in your bag that you could upsell, and they're looking but you don't know it because they don't know that you do that, right? All of those kinds of things we can catch that way, which is important.
Yeah. I want to tell you about another show on the HubSpot podcast network, Marketing School. Hosts Neil Patel and Eric Sue give you daily 10 to 15-minute episodes packed with actionable insights from their own experience building and scaling multiple companies. In a recent episode testing AI tools head to head on real marketing jobs, websites, thumbnails, clips, recruiting, and growth analysis, they break down which ones actually get the work done. If you're looking to sharpen your AI tech stack, that is absolutely the episode to start with. Daily insights, real results. Listen to Marketing School wherever you get your podcasts. Right now, every B2B marketing team is trying to figure out AEO, where they stand, whether it matters for them, and what they're supposed to actually do about it. The best place to start is knowing where you stand. We're offering a full AEO analysis of your brand's visibility across AI search engines, how often you're mentioned, what you're being cited for, and how your competitors are showing up. Then we'll walk you through the findings on a call with clear next steps. And we're doing all of this for free. You can request your analysis in the show notes below. One thing I do want to go back to, actually, that you were speaking about earlier, had a question on, which is how do you capture the sentiment of the economic buyer if they're not your day-to-day contact? You mentioned like just speak to them, but like sometimes just not that easy.
No, agreed. I mean, I think it depends very much on what you sell and and whatnot. But in our world, our economic buyer is typically the CEO, the CRO, or the CMO. Um, Almost always in our business, right? And so, are those the three people who are also our day-to-day contacts in the delivery of the services and what we're doing day to day? Usually not. Uh, Usually our team is engaged with a variety of people on their team, and everybody's doing good work together. Uh, but if I want to renew an agreement with that company, not only does their team have to feel good, I have to know what's going on in that economic buyer's world, right? Maybe they're getting ready to exit. Maybe they are planning a process in 12 months and they need to start improving their EBITDA. And so they're going to be cutting costs regardless of you know, what value we're creating. Okay, well, I would hold I would really appreciate knowing that early on in that process so that we can figure out how we can help them create the best, um, you know, outcomes. Maybe we're all doing great work, but their market has shifted, and they're seeing it. Their pipeline's slowing down, or their sales force is registering isn't closing as often, and the work we're doing is good, but it's maybe not the right work at this
Yeah.
moment in time for what that company now needs. Um, so for us, uh, we have to maintain a dialogue. It's not an everyday dialogue, but maintain a dialogue with those people, that economic buyer, and that's a function of the leadership in our company and also the senior level account execs. We don't call them that, but generally like that type of role who play that function
Yeah.
in a software company. Yeah, you typically do have, like, as long as your purchase price, like, I'm not talking about the software companies that sell transactionally, but the ones that are selling like enterprise deals. Your average deal is six figures at least, maybe into the seven figures, and you're a managed service provider, or you're a services company, or you're a tech enabled services, or you're just a pure play software company, whatever it is. I guess this really applies to even hardware and manufacturing too. There, you're going to have similar roles, right? You're going to have roles that are responsible for that executive connection. They just can't go away the minute the deal's signed. They've got to be able to stay engaged, and then you've got to be able to pull the information, what they capture in their monthly touch point, or their quarter. Maybe it's just a QBR. Depends on the business how often you need that engagement, but you need to be able to pull that actual sentiment into your engine, even if it's just coming off of a phone call. um, and so how do you capture that, and how do you make sure, if you're waiting for the AE to type in all of the notes from that call, you're probably not going to be real successful. We need to find ways to deploy technology that captures that automatically and pushes it into that centralized CRM or sentiment
Yeah.
capture system.
Yeah. That's super useful. And the other things that can go into that centralized capture system is everything from the third party area. And just to go back to my point on agents, because I've just been honestly blown away,
You're geeking
by,
out. Yeah.
yeah, by my
So
experience
have I.
with HubSpot agents. Because when we think about like third party intent data of the past, it's so basic in what you can get. But
Yeah.
with agents, and yeah, I'm going to speak about HubSpot. Like we're a HubSpot partner, and it's an awesome tool. And if you have HubSpot, like agents needs to be on your to do list tomorrow to go and check out, because
Yep.
we can basically run intent data on steroids to go and figure out public information about our customers. So we've got a customer in the defense sector, who will often publicly announce like projects that they're working on because they're huge contracts that they're delighted to share, and they've got approval to go and share those, and that's fantastic. Do we know everything about their contracts that they sign? Absolutely not. But typically, that information is publicly available. And it could be a signal for us that, oh, okay, like they've just signed this contract, like they may need this part of our product, of our service offering. Okay, that's a signal that we should maybe go and engage with them in this way, or enroll them into this campaign that we're running for this particular product set. Let's actually push this company into LinkedIn and run against this ad set, for example. Pharma industries. So I used to work for a life science company who sold to pharma, and all studies that pharmaceutical companies run are public information. Like intent data, like platforms like Apollo, Zoom Info, are never going to be able to run the clinical trial study platforms. Clinical trial study lists that are out there to tell you, oh, AstraZeneca are running this trial on this um, thing, but you can set up an agent in HubSpot to go and find out, which studies they're running, why they're running it, like everything that goes behind that. And that can be the basis for your outreach to go and upsell, this thing to expand here. Or on the flip side, it might be like, oh, actually, like they're doing this kind of thing. Um, Maybe they are going in a different direction away from our products, and that could be a churn risk. Yeah, like intent data on steroids is what I'm starting to think when it comes to HubSpot agents.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm Agent Hub. Like, yeah, I think we're all really surprised at just how right out of the box it's easy to apply and useful and can unlock a lot of things. You still have to have access to, like in your example, yes, publicly available data. I had no idea, by the way, that all those clinical trials data is public information.
Yeah.
I think that's is that true in the US too? Like, is that true globally?
Not sure about like all the regulations, but yeah, I mean, I was literally looking at this earlier. So there is
Wow.
there is a
Okay.
whole lot of information out there about
Fascinating.
trials happening right now.
I can think of a couple of customers that would help. Okay, so let me try to get back to the here. Um, okay, so we can create agents. We still have to have data sources, and we have to be able to make those data sources available into HubSpot in this example. Um, what do you think? When you think of customer success and you think of ticketing systems and the teams that are using them, how do you go convince the customer success manager that marketing is going to go grab all of his ticket information
Mm.
and all
Yeah.
of all of her conversations with employees or with customers and from her team, and suck that into the sentiment engine, the CRM, when probably in most cases that CRM is not actually the platform that they use day to day.
It has to be undeniable, doesn't it? And this comes back into marketing being so cut off from the customer, which is something I've experienced before, and it's not nice because as marketers we can't do our job when that happens. So to create a real life use case of here is what could happen if we have all of this information, all of this unstructured data right now that's operating in, three different systems. If we brought that all together, what is the visualized output of all of those things? What are the opportunities that that leads us to? How does that reduce churn? How does that increase expansion? How does it identify those opportunities? Like, if we can visualize those use cases and just make it undeniable that this gives us the ability to do those, I think it creates a really strong case for having that overarching view. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I was having this conversation with one of our clients recently, where we were talking about the evolving nature of marketing inside of a company, right? Um, all of our listeners, frankly,
Yeah.
uh, and um, what I realized was I'm starting to believe that the most important um, skill set or focus area for someone who wants to be an awesome marketer and make a real difference to their company is really detailed knowledge of the product or the service or the business that they're in, um, and not how to write the best blog posts or the best, like the tactical marketing elements that have to get done. But more and more, that that knowledge that used to be unique, how to build a great campaign, is going to be automatable. Um, and I mean, I think like LinkedIn agents or sorry, HubSpot agents are going to do a lot of that right out of the box within probably 6 months, maybe a year. But I fully expect HubSpot to say, yeah, you know, point me in the right direction, tell me your ICP, and I'm going to go do it. Right. Uh, so what matters is, and what matters is really knowing your product in depth, really knowing your industry, your customer base, your uh, what how decisions get made, why those decisions get made, um, and I think that's just generally where in-house marketing teams are going need to focus. Uh, Makes product marketing really, really valuable, um, but in the context of this conversation, that if you are that have that you if you have that level of depth, you're going to be able to build that playbook that you can then sit down with the head of customer success, or maybe more importantly, the CFO, the CEO, and say, look, here's why this is such a critical thing. This is why we have to build this sentiment engine, and it has to be able to get access to all of these data sources, because this is what we're going to be able to do with it. And you can talk at a detailed level of how your business operates, and um, be credible when the various other people who are going to have an opinion, right? Head of sales is going to have an opinion. Um, head of uh, Head of customer success will definitely have an opinion, and those opinions are important, and we want to bring them in, but to have an equal seat at the table, not a commanding seat, just an equal seat for that marketing person to not be poo pooed, which is what happens a lot. They've got to be able to speak with credibility, not just on what they're trying to build, but on the business itself and
Yeah.
the product set.
When we think about the role of marketing is to give us a competitive advantage over the rest of the market competing for our business. And
Yep.
as you mentioned, Josh, the information, the agents, the capability out there now to go and execute the tactical stuff that would maybe once give us that competitive advantage. Could we create a blog post better than somebody else? Could we structure a LinkedIn post better than somebody else? Can we run an email campaign better than somebody else? That is no longer, and maybe never was to a certain extent, a competitive advantage. But the moat that you can build around your business now is the data and the insights within that you can then use within all of those channels to build the competitive advantage, because you're distributing the right message at the right time with the right insights, because you have that system of data that is just feeding it. And um, every single message that you distribute, no matter the channel, after that just becomes more effective and more powerful and more timely.
Yeah, and I don't want to underestimate it. That is hard, and it does take time, and it does take work, and AI won't do it for you. It will give you access to information, but if you expect AI to know uniquely how to calculate the risks of your customer, uh, you know, choosing something else or the opportunity to increase your pricing or to sell them something new, the um, all AI is going to do is be able to leverage past data. But if this is a new thing for you, if you've never had these capabilities before, you're going to have to put real thought into how do we how do we really evaluate that, and let's build a system, and it's going to have a whole bunch of variables that may or may not be right, but those are the ones we want to measure, and we want to then iterate quickly on as we collect data and we see whether we're proving to be correct or incorrect, right? Um, but it to be able to build that out for the first time does take effort, and it's it's a job. Like
Yeah.
it's somebody it needs to be somebody's job. Whether you go get it help from the outside from somebody like us or not, or whether you have a role or a team within your business that's going to be focused on that. Um, it's it needs focus, I guess is what I want to say.
Yeah. I just want to steer us in a bit of a different direction to
Mm.
touch on customer champions and how we use our customers within our marketing, because a lot of the
Mm.
time marketing teams treat their customer case studies or reviews as a checkbox exercise. It's like, oh, okay, new customer, results are okay, boom, checkbox, let's ask them for a case study, get it published, end of. We stop there. But customers are our biggest champion opportunity for every piece of marketing that we do. That one customer that maybe we've identified through our sentiment analysis that is like has real high usage, is really engaged, there's positive signals. Not only can they be a great review, a great case study, they could be our next speaker at our event. They
Mhm.
could be on a joint webinar with us. They can be part of our next influencer campaign. Like, not enough businesses are thinking about how we use customers to promote ourselves in advertising, like on LinkedIn ads, to our audience. So, like, Sandrine at RMS, who has done a brilliant case study with us at Blend. She's awesome, by the way. After the wrap up of our project, I didn't even ask her to do this, by the way. She is just an organic champion of ours, which is great. But she posted a video on LinkedIn like about the project, just saying it was wrapped up. Like, basically, if you want a brand website HubSpot transformation, like, you need to talk to Blend. It's like, wow, like, Sandrine, like, do you mind if
Yeah,
I do you mind if I use this now as a sponsored post on LinkedIn to the rest of like our target audience? And of course, like, because she was a champion, because we had that amazing sentiment from her, the answer in that moment,
and because she's a wonderful human being.
and
Like,
because she's just amazing.
be
um
grateful.
so, thinking of all of the ways that we can use our customers, our champions, like the people that we love working with, that like make our business what it is, just needs to be part of the thought process. Our customer story shouldn't be a checkbox exercise that is just posted on the website and forgotten about forever. It's how do we integrate our customer stories throughout everything and make them super, super authentic so our audience
Right.
trusts them more.
I think authenticity is the key thing, right? Video creates inherent authenticity because it just you can see us talking, and it doesn't feel like I might have written that quote for you.
Yeah.
The where sometimes written case studies that I see, especially the unnamed written case studies, we should just say it. Please stop putting unnamed written
Oh,
case studies on your website. Please
I think they
stop
do more
doing
harm.
all of that. Like that is, there's no value, zero value, and it makes you look silly. So just stop. If you disagree with me, send me a note. Um, if you find one on our website, please tell me, because it shouldn't
You'll never
be.
find one.
Uh, but I do think, though, that is part of that, Dan, it's the obligation of the company, of us, of the company, who wants to have a vibrant advocacy program, to also think, what is the value that I'm creating for that customer being in that advocacy program? And I'm gonna embarrass you, but you've done an amazing job of that. Just in the last year, you've started up a series of dinners that we're running in London, and we'll look to expand those next year, I think. But you tell me. Um, but the growth table is meant to be exactly that. It's meant to say, okay, look, we want to bring our customers together to speak on our behalf in many ways, and so the growth table, we run these events. They bring in marketing and sales leaders from um, customers and from prospects and potential people we might want to work with down the road, bring them all together into a relatively small, intimate environment, um, where, yes, we want our customers to speak about their great experience with Blend. But more importantly, or just as importantly, we want them to be able to network together. We want them to be able to learn from each other. The conversations there are amazing, fascinating, rich. We learn from it. They learn from it. They get value out of it. Create, I just like, I think there's an opportunity to build advocacy programs that are supportive in both directions. Um, and for a C-suite member to feel good about participating in an advocacy program when they're crazy busy and they've got so many demands on their time, it needs to either create a lot of value for them personally, or it has to create a lot of value for their company. And ideally it does both, right? It's a um, and so I think that is something marketing needs to really embrace, that this isn't just about using the customer to get done what we want to get done. We have to do it in a way that is rewarding for all parties who participate. And um, and I think that's inherently possible. I think it just requires some extra thought and investment, and not trying to just create a bunch of written case studies and check the box, like you say.
Yeah, yeah. Community is such a powerful thing, and some businesses will go the full way to create a customer community, to do customer awards, to do full blown, you know, showcase customer events that are their biggest, highly invested in events of the year. You might not need to do that, but it is
Right.
thinking about ways to create the champion, but then like let them publicly be the champion as well. Like give them a platform. Like let
Mhm.
them be somebody who can like share in the glory as well, I suppose.
Yep. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, cool. Anything else that you want to touch on in this episode? I feel like we've covered a lot here.
No, I think so. I think we've done a decent job with it, at least in scratching the surface. I'd love to hear from others, hear from listeners on what their challenges are in unlocking data and customer sentiment information. I'd really love to just have some of those conversations. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, well, that all sounds nice, but you don't understand my environment. I got all these, I can't possibly measure all of that. I would love to hear from you personally and be able to just have that conversation. And maybe we feature it on a further episode, where we go into more depth. Maybe we show a system that works well, and we can go in, we can explore it. But today's not the day for that. So just an open invitation. If you're listening and you've got interest in this area, Dan and I really want to hear from you, and you know, would welcome the opportunity to just chat.
Yeah. On the HubSpot agent side of things, I recorded a video yesterday that will be going out on the Blend YouTube channel some point next week. So the things that
Sweet.
I was touching on in terms of the third party intent data, how you actually set up agents to go away and do your own hyper specific intent research for your customers. Like there's going to be some examples in there. And hopefully, yeah, some useful things that you can go away and implement in your business.
By the time this podcast is actually released,
Oh, yeah,
it'll
good
probably
point,
already
actually.
be
Yeah,
there.
because we're like 3 behind. I should know that, shouldn't I? But I don't look at the schedule anymore. I just turn up.
All right. Well, good.
All right.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, let's wrap it up there. Really fun episode. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. I know I did. And we will catch you in the next one. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening to the episode today. Before you head off, if AEO has been on your mind and you're not sure where to start, here's something worth doing right now. We're offering a full AI visibility analysis completely free. We'll look at how your brand is showing up across the major AI engines, what's influencing those results, how competitors compare, and what you should do about it. Then we'll walk you through all the findings on a call. Actual findings too, specific to your business with real next steps. Not a template, not a PDF, a proper analysis. You can request yours by clicking the link in the description below.